Hi, Kaushik. Thanks for taking time out today. So let us start with a very interesting thing you talked about in the book. You talked about the plaque that your father gave when you were in 12th standard, which has something that was said by Swami Vivekananda, that and the childhood experiences. How did it shape your entire journey?
My father actually had his education in Ramakrishna Mission in Belur, and as a result, he imbibed principles of Vivekananda, and therefore he was one who kind of, not very explicitly, but very implicitly taught me the principles of integrity, of hard work. And this plaque actually, which effectively said it all, that, if you want to be successful, you have to be perseverant. And it's a very important foundational thought and a lesson. The life is not going to be easy always. So you have to be perseverant, you have to continue in your journey, and you need to be very focused and determined in whatever you want to achieve. You will face failures, there will be times when you will trip and fall, but have the determination and the inner spirit to stand up, dust yourself, and keep walking. So it was also the time when I was leaving home for college, and this plaque kind of reminded me that as you start your journey into adulthood, you have to have the fortitude, the patience, the humility, the integrity to ensure that you can walk this path for a longer distance. So it's actually a more a foundational thought which has helped me ever since.
What is your advice to a young finance professional?
My advice to a person who wants to venture into the journey of A, being a professional, and B, in the world of finance, I actually look at a couple of things. One is assuming that that person has qualified and has qualified his formal degrees or certification. There is a part of the craft which is what all of us have started our professional journey with. The degree or the professional qualification being the first of it. And then there is this whole ever-changing world of practical life, which is also always going to give you a nudge to say, hey, you need to learn more. And therefore, this whole behavioral mindset of being a constant learner as the profession changes, as the contours changes. For example, if somebody is looking to become a chartered accountant, the job that a chartered accountant used to do in industry 20 years back, 25 years back, or even 10 years back, is very different that a new chartered accountant would be doing in the next 10 years or 20 years. And this is about reskilling constantly, looking at things that are happening all around. A lot of self-driven, self-motivated learning is an important attribute of aspiring finance professional. The analytics, the tech is going to become the backbone. The digital platform is going to be a big enabler, and sustainability is going to be the fulcrum for the future purpose of the corporation wherever somebody wants to work. And therefore, all of these are important enablers. And I know curriculums are changing, standards are changing, but people who have already become professionals, they need to continuously reinvent themselves in terms of their skill sets. And I think that's going to be very important. So to me, the fundamental thing is be a learner for life. Have the ability to grasp complexity in any form that comes in. You should be able to look at newer challenges as opportunities and opportunities where you can learn and contribute, learn the business, learn the idea of what an ideal finance professional should be in terms of values, in terms of integrity, and become the real trustee of the organization, because the finance function actually is a true trustee of the stakeholders of the company.
Kaushik, on the topic of sustainability, you are engaged with multiple global forums on the topic of climate change and sustainability. How do you think its importance and relevance is to the corporations in the near future?
So Sandeep, I think corporations' fundamental goal has been for decades to create value for shareholders, and that has been one of the yardsticks of capitalism, of capital market, and that's been kind of the be all and end all for many, many decades. And that's how industrialization has happened across the world. And we and emerging markets have also followed that path. We follow the industrial path to development. But as we have done so as a universe, I'm not talking about a country, as a universe, as we have done so, we have taken certain things for granted, and namely the natural endowments that has come to us as citizens of this world. And that today is certainly under threat and serious and real threat. It's not a threat which is only occupying the minds of people who are thinking about it. And therefore, I think going forward, we have a time period which is fairly limited. It is determined by science, so it is not somebody's whims and fancies. That this world and the natural resources of this world are at risk. The citizens of this world are at risk, and the future sustainability of the world are at risk. And the financial system, the global financial system, has a very, very important role in shaping the direction of the future path as far as economic activities will move in the future. So I think it is important that the whole purpose of the corporation, the whole purpose of the enterprise has to look at how do you sustain in the context of integrating the various capitals of that are at the disposal of a corporation, whether it is a natural capital or a human capital or social capital, financial capital, of course. And I think this is where all companies need to step up. The entire ESG framework has become a fulcrum on which corporate strategy has to be redrawn. It is right in front and center of boards and management of all corporations, whether it is an MSME or whether it is a large corporation or a multinational corporation. Everybody needs to start thinking and needs to start planning and acting on how do we actually work towards managing the transition risks, look at opportunities and risks on the same side, and craft out the future which is sustainable for us as a society, as a community, which reduces inequality and ensures that profit plus planet is what will make us sustainable, and don't profit out of the planet, but profit along with the planet, and ensure that we build a sustainable society which is which can be happy and prosperous in the future, which can create value for all stakeholders. And when I say all stakeholders, genuinely meaning all stakeholders. And because only if you do that, will the shareholders will sustain themselves as people who gets the residual profits. The last thing on this subject is because of the way in which the capital markets, the way in which the capitalism has moved, there has been a fair bit of short-termism which has come into the world of business. And now when we are looking at companies redrawing strategy for, say, net zero 2050 or 2040 or whatever is most appropriate, you are first looking at much more long-term capital usage, deployment, risk, and opportunities than just the quarter gone by or the quarter coming in front. And I think this rewiring will be necessary, will be mandatory, and will be important to make a sustainable society in the future. And that's why I'm passionate about it, and I think it's an important subject for corporations, boards, managements, and professionals to look at it very, very seriously.
Don't profit from the planet, profit along with the planet. It's a very noble thought, Kaushik. Thanks for sharing that with us. One last question for you is, what is your guidance for new chief financial officers?
You know, when you become a CFO, I think at whatever age, at whatever experience one has got, I think the first thing for a new CFO is to feel secure and confident. Confident because of the fact that she or he must have done something right professionally, from a leadership point of view, from a craft point of view, and that's why the position has been given. So be secured and confident first. The second one is when you get to become a new CFO, you will have white spaces in your mind, which you need to build the building blocks of what you want to do as a finance leader, as a leader of that function, and a member of the senior leadership team, and a co-partner or a co-pilot to the CEO and to the chairman of the board. So I think this is something which is important to get the mind settled first. The second part is obviously whether one is an insider or an outsider, to know the business in and out. And I don't think there can be a CFO who can succeed in his term or tenure if he or she doesn't understand the business of that enterprise. And when I say business, I think what are the key critical levers of that business? What are the strategic issues of the business? What's the strategy of the business? How does the business operate? What are the vulnerabilities of the business? And that understanding then helps two or three things. The first one is it provides that person with the wisdom to be a better steward in that function and indeed in that company. So that stewardship function is dependent on the wisdom that the CFO carries in his or her head. The second one is as one goes through that journey in the initial period and it never ends perhaps, is the judgment capabilities, our capability to judge things well, and the power to essentially judge what's right and what's not, and what can be done and what cannot be done, is going to improve. And that's very important in a position like a CFO. What is not required, or one has to be very careful about, is not to let biases come in and be judgmental about it. And one of the ways of not being judgmental is to create an access to the people around the function, across the function, hear, listen, and then understand, because that will then help the abilities to judge things better. And I think that's important. Final two things, I think respect your colleagues, respect them, whether they are seniors, juniors, peers, because when you do that, you create empathy. And when you create empathy, you have better wisdom coming from various people. You may consider it, you may not consider it, but people will be more willing to access you and give you their thoughts. Sometimes those thoughts may not kind of be the ones which you like or which you are biased for or against, but that's fine. Be a good listener, and it is important to have an inner personality which is fairly strong and determined. You might face periods or situations where people have misperceptions about you. People may judge you wrongly, may have wrong opinions about you, but that's life. One has to continue to move on the journey of having high integrity, high capability, a certain level of equanimity, and ensure that you are the calming effect rather than the trigger for stress in the organization. I thought that's what a young CFO or a new CFO can take on board and think about their own way of doing things.
Fantastic. That's a lot of food for thought, Kaushik. Thanks a lot for today.